Hey, how's it going guys? Welcome or welcome back, and in this episode we're going to be adding things like health, the health bar, and then we're also going to be setting things up like damage. So let's just get straight to it. Right guys, so the first thing we want to do is we just want to make sure that, so if you select the player billboard, if you're following this series, and so in the last episode we added these variables here. If you haven't done this, you could pause right now and just add these. They're all just numbers, and you can just name them the same as what they are right here. Once we've got these variables, we can now just start setting the values, which we can then reference in the event sheet. So for example, we want the health to be 100 and the max health to be 100. We could set the damage something like 50. Speed we can keep at 0 for now. The fire rate we can set to 1. Again, this is so that we can add things like multipliers to this down the line. And then for the range we can say 128. And then for the health pickup percentage we can set that to something like 25 or 50%, which is something more we'll be going down into in episode 4, which is where we'll be setting things up like the actual pickups and stuff like that. We might touch it a little bit at the end of this episode, but for now, so we can just set this to 25 or 50, whatever you'd like it to be. Alright guys, so now we've got the variables out of the way. Let's add the health bar. So what we'll do is we need to add 2 objects for this. We're going to insert a new object, and we want to be using 3D shapes, just like the character. We're going to click, and then we just want to set the bottom face, and for this let's just select a green colour. We'll fill this in, and so this is going to be the health bar. So we want to actually make this shorter, so what we want to do is, at the top where it says size, we want to set that to just 0.5. As you can see, it's now flatter. And then we want to only be showing the bottom face, just like the character. And then on top of this, we want to set the height we could set to just like 0.8. So it's just a nice thin line. And then the elevation, this is how high up it will actually be, so then we could set it to like 16. And as you can see, this is now higher up off the screen. Okay, then just select it, and we want to rename this to health bar. And then just put it on the environment layer as well, is fine. Okay, so let's get this working first, and then I'm also going to be adding, like, we can add a background to the health bar as well, just to show you that you can give it a nice outline. So for now we'll just select this, and we're going to give it a pin behavior, so select behaviors pin. And then let's go over to the event sheet. And so what we want to do is, so up here on the on start of layout, I'm going to drag this down so it's out of the way. And then so on start of layout, we want to say health bar. And we want to pin to object, and we want to pin it to the player billboard. We don't want to pin the angle, we just want to pin the X and Y, and then we also want to just tick yes for the Z elevation. We also want to be setting the position of the health bar on the start of the layout, so what we want to do is, once again, we can say health bar, set position, and now so we have an X and Y coordinate, but what we want to do is we want to set this to the actual, so we want to say player billboard dot X minus 50, and then we want to set this one to player billboard dot Y minus 20. We're going to drag this above the pin, and then finally we want to just set once again health bar, and we just want to move that to the top of the layer. So that's just in case there's anything else, so that will always be on top of all environment, you know, and things like that. So next, just go back inside of your health bar, and what we want to do is we want to click the origin point here, the image point, and we want to right click. We want to quick assign, and we want to put that to the left. So obviously if this being a health bar, we want this to start at the left, so then this will be scaling outwards like this. So this is basically like the starting point. Okay, so now I've got that working, what we can do is we could add the actual background just to go around the health bar, just to make it stand out a bit more. So we can select the health bar, we can right click, clone object type, and then if you hold shift whilst you click, it'll paste it in the same place. And then we can just rename this to health bar background. Once we're in here, we can then go down, and so for Z elevation, we need to reduce this slightly, so maybe like just 15.6 or something, so it's behind it, but not too far. And this is just going to stop clipping, basically. We want to increase the size, so we will set this to 130 maybe. And then we also want to change the Z height, so we change it to 1.5, something like that. Let's test this for now, so what we'll do is we also just need to quickly change the colour. So enter inside of your health bar background, and then just give it a darker colour. So I'm going to select like a dark blue. Maybe it darker like that. Alright, great, so head back to your event sheet, and now we need to also do the same thing with the background. So when we start on the layer, we can just copy this health one, and instead of the billboard, we'll be pinning to the health bar, and we want to pin the health bar background. So health bar background, pin to object, and we're going to pin it to the health bar. Let's drag this up, so that we're pinning it before we're moving the actual health bar, so it all stays together, like so. So now if we preview, the health bar now follows and we have a background. Now I've got a bit of a clipping issue here, so we need to fix that. Alright guys, to fix that clipping issue, all you got to do is just head over to your health bars, and then just select the health bar itself or one of them, and just drag this out a little, like this. So the issue is just if they're too close together, they start colliding with each other. So now if we preview, as you can see, we don't have an issue now. And it adds a cool little effect as well where it rotates with the character. Now again, like, so you see we have these jagged edges, so what we can do is, so this is to do with the actual overall, like, size of the game, so, you know, the actual resolution. And on top of that as well, like we mentioned in the first episode, the actual sampling. So even setting it to bilinear would make a difference there slightly. Again, once this is all working, then that's up to you, you know, how you actually want to go about, you know, the actual design of the game. Alright, great, so now your health bar should be following your character, and the background should also be following the health bar. So the next thing we're going to be doing is let's set up some damage, just so we can actually see the health bar working. In the future, we'll be changing this system to work with the enemies, but for now what we can do is we can insert a new object. We can just give this a red colour on the bottom face or something like that, like this. We'll place this in here, and I'm just literally going to leave it for now right now, and we'll just call this damage player test. So we'll just drag a 3D shape in there, give it some colour, and we're just going to use this to test actually damaging the player. So if you head over to your event sheet, we can add a new group, and we'll call this damage player. Or just damage, it's up to you. And what we can do is we can say, you know, we can say player collision on collision with another object. And again, when possible, like, so it's not always possible, but when possible, it's always best. So you see how we've got these green arrows here, or when you just see a green icon next to it, that means it's only getting triggered once during that event. So basically, it's instead of firing constantly or firing every tick, whereas, you know, if you use something like is overlapping, this doesn't have the arrows, so this means it's constantly getting checked. So keep that in mind when it comes to optimizing your games in the future. But anyways, so what we're going to do is we're going to say on collision with another object. We'll say damage player test. So when we collide with this, we now want to actually damage the player. We're going to add an action, and then what we want to do is we want to say health bar, set the width, and then we want to set this to player billboard dot health, which is the variable we set up before. So now when we damage, it's going to set the width of the health bar to the same width as what the health equals. One thing to keep in mind is, so if you head back, what we actually need to do is, so for this example, I set the size to 120. So what that means is, so if you've set yours to 122, what we need to do is we also need to make sure that the health is actually 120. If you wanted to set it to 100, you would set this to 100. So just make sure it matches. Whilst we're here, we also, just for testing, let's add a variable to the damage. We'll just call this damage, and we'll set the number to 25. Next, let's head back to our event sheet. We're going to add a new action, player billboard. We're going to subtract from health, and then what we're going to subtract is we're going to subtract damage player test dot damage, and then just drag this above the health bar, so it triggers this first. And so let's test this. Alright guys, so as you can see, our health bar is now following the character, and if we touch this, we now take damage. One more thing we can quickly add is we could add a new group, and we could just call this game over, and then we could also create a function, which is also good just to keep in mind. So we can call this from game over, and what we can do is just quickly head over, insert a new object, add browser, head back to game over. We can say browser, we can close, drag this in here for now, and then we can add more events later. But now, so we've got a function for game over, and then what we can do is, so we can just say, we can add a new thing here, and we can do a compare. So what we can do is we can say player billboard, compare variable, and we can say health, and we can say is less or equal to 0. If the health's less or equal to 0, we can call the function game over, and that will close the game. So this is just an example for now, but we'll just quickly test this. So now we have this health bar, we take damage, and then once once you run out of health, it goes to game over. So that's it for this episode. We'll be going for a lot more things in the next one. We'll be adding, pickups, things like that. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Take care guys, and I'll see you later.